We're back to live action. Hope everybody got some sustenance. Or maybe you were wolfing down food the whole time and I just didn't know it. I'm starving here, though. At any rate, hey, we're ready to kick off the remainder of the program, and we got a real treat coming for you. I'm sure you've read the news here, there, and everywhere, and we've got a national subject matter expert to speak to Rapid Appeals and Modernization Program, RAMP. Mr. Fritz Navarat-Nazingame you heard Fritz earlier today. He's the director of the Seattle Regional Office. Fritz, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I sound like the PA announcer at a college football game. Yes, we are good to go, and you are cleared for takeoff.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Well, it is an honor, and thank you, Bob, for inviting me to speak at this CVEB networking event. And as mentioned, I had the privilege of serving in the Spokane Veterans First Board, and I'm a real big supporter of the CVEB initiative. So it was I was very eager to support this when asked. And as Bob said, I don't know if I'd call myself a national subject matter expert, but I definitely have had a lot of experience with appeals throughout my career. And my office is doing some important work in the area of appeals modernization. So just thought from the field perspective, I would share what we're doing and the approach that the agency is taking when it comes to appeals modernization. And hopefully what I share with you today will be important information that collectively we can share in meetings that we're having with veterans groups and other stakeholders. So just some background on me. Again, my name is Fritz Navarat-Nazingame. I'm the director of the Seattle VA Regional Office, and I've been in VBA for about 25 years and have worked previously. I was a director in Houston. Prior to that, I was a director in Providence, Rhode Island. Have worked in headquarters, had a lot of different assignments, have worked in a lot of work groups. I've had a long actual career with working on appeals work groups. I would say that this work group and this effort that we're undertaking is, I would categorize as the most exciting change that I've ever seen when it comes to appeals. And it's just an honor to be leading some of this change. So that's some of the background. The Seattle RO does serve as one of the 10 rapid appeals modernization sites in VBA. So we've got some real boots on the ground experience with the RAMP program and how that's working, and can definitely share some of that with you today. So what I would say about appeals modernization is the change that we're making represents fundamental change. And it's not just the changes around the edges, but really the important change that's always been needed in appeals. Okay. So this next slide that you see here is a slide that really illustrates the tremendous growth in the number of appeals that are in our system. A 350% increase since fiscal year 2001. And in all that time, the appeals ratio has stayed relatively stable. It's not really fluctuated, been about the 11 to 12% range. However, the number of decisions that VBA has made has increased to the point where over the last 5+ years, over 1 million claims have been decided, and we're on track for another record-breaking year with the number of decisions that we're making. So it makes sense that as we make more decisions, we're going to get more appeals coming to the system, even if our appeals rate is not increasing, the ratio is not increasing. By virtue of the fact that the number of decisions are increasing, we're going to see more appeals coming to the system. So that's the driver for this fundamental need to change our system. And just simply adding more resources is not the answer. So that's the catalyst for where we are today.
Excuse me, Fritz.
Yes.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Are you able to change your presentation mode so that we don't see so we can see it full screen? We're seeing your next slide on deck.
Oh, okay? All right. Let me see here. How's that?
There you go. Great. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Perfect. Sorry, I'm kind of a novice when it comes to this, so learning as I go here. So the the current appeals process is simply, quite honestly, it's too complex and it takes too long. There's no defined endpoint or time frame. On average, veterans are waiting 3 years for resolution of their appeal. And for those who where a decision is decided by the Board of Veterans Appeals, we're talking about 7 years from their filing of their NOD to the time the board has decided. And the complexity is underscored by the fact that there are far too many steps, difficult to explain to veterans, and there's split jurisdiction between VBA and the board. That means there's a lot of handoffs that occur. And there's also a continuous evidence gathering by virtue of the fact that we have an open record and ongoing duty to assist. So it is a very complex, non-linear process. And I know as I go and talk to veterans and stakeholder groups these days, it's really not the initial decision, the initial service connection decision. Those ones we're making those decisions in the 3 to 4 month time range. It's the concern always turns to appeals. I filed an appeal and it's been 5 years. It's been 10 years sometimes. And that's really again, the driver for why we need to make this change. All right, so hopefully everyone can see this interesting diagram, which represents our appeals process as it exists today. And what I want to, anyone who looks at this and tries to navigate your way around this appeals process can get dizzy quickly looking at this. And it really exemplifies the fact that there are too many handoffs and there's far too much complexity in our process. I would draw your attention to those orange boxes, because those orange boxes really represent the churn in our system. And that's where things are going backwards in the process, or going back from BVA to VBA. And the area that's in the gray represents the jurisdiction of the board. So everything in the white background is VBA's jurisdiction, and everything in the gray background is the Board of Veterans Appeals. So hopefully everyone agrees that this current system as it's depicted here is just simply not the system that's going to work for us. So here's the solution that is going to take us to where we need to be when it comes to appeals. And the driver is on August 23rd, 2017. The Veterans Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act of 2017 was signed into law, and it takes into effect. The new law goes into effect in a few months in February of 2019. Time is rapidly coming upon us when this new law goes into effect. And what I want to share with you is that this solution was adopted after discussion with key stakeholders, most importantly our VSOs. And this framework affords numerous options for veterans and highlights separate lines of responsibility for VBA and BVA based on whether the veteran chooses our higher level review, a supplemental claim, or appeal. and also, most importantly, will prevent the churn and the handoffs that are noted in that prior slide. So the 3 lanes that are featured in this new system are the higher level review, the supplemental claim, and the appeal lane. And we'll go into that in just a minute in more detail. So the 3 lanes, as they're defined, the supplemental claim lane, this one allows the veteran to continue to submit additional evidence, and VA has a duty to assist to gather new and relevant evidence. The effective date for benefits is always protected, and it replaces the reopening of claims with new and material evidence. So that's one feature. So if a veteran wants to elect a VBA review and they have additional evidence, this would be the right lane to select. The other lane, this is again in VBA's jurisdiction, is called the higher level review lane. An important feature of this lane is it has a closed record, no duty to assist. Essentially, the veteran is saying, I want a higher level reviewer looking at this decision and reviewing this decision and making a new decision. It does provide the option for a one-time informal conference with a higher level reviewer to discuss the error in the prior decision, and this de novo review with full difference of opinion authority. And then finally, there's the BVA lane, which has 3 different dockets: the evidence-only docket, a direct docket, and the hearing docket. Important feature I want to call out is the fact that the direct docket is a closed record, and there's a 365-day timeliness goal. In the 2 VBA lanes, the timeliness goal is 125 days. And I think we would all agree that's a far improvement from the 3 to 7 years that I highlighted earlier for the current system. Okay, so this slide depicts what the new decision review process looks like. So if you remember that other slide from a few slides ago where you had all those crazy lines and all that churn, this is clearly a lot simpler and easier to understand and more clearly defined. And it illustrates the point that VBA is responsible for the claims and BVA is responsible for the appeals. Because now when VBA makes a decision, if a veteran wants to file a notice of disagreement, it goes directly to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. However, the veteran who wants the VBA decision reviewed also has other options that stay within VBA: a higher level review and a supplemental claim, and each of them have a 125-day goal, as I mentioned earlier. So the other important feature is those green lines between the boxes in the VBA lane represent the fact that a veteran can go into one of those lanes, like the supplemental lane, and if they're not satisfied, they can continue to go into the higher level review lane. So you have multiple options. And then you can go from higher level review, and if you continue to not be satisfied with the outcome of the decision, you can elect to file a notice of disagreement and get your appeal reviewed by by BVA. And as noted in that box on the bottom, except for appeals to the court, all filing deadlines 1 year. So, because this new law goes into effect in February of 2019, the Rapid Appeals Modernization Program was implemented as an interim strategy to allow veterans in the current legacy appeals process to participate in the new appeals framework. Initially, it started with a focus on the oldest appeals, and veterans were able to participate by invitation only. Based on a broad level of interest and efforts to assist as many veterans as possible, in April of 2018, RAMP was expanded to allow participation for any veteran that meets eligibility criteria. So that was an important change, and we're definitely looking to share this information as widely as possible. And again, this is probably a good forum in which to help publicize the fact that RAMP is out there, and we can encourage those who might benefit from RAMP to look at doing a RAMP election. So veterans must have an active disability compensation appeal in one of the following appeal stages to be eligible: a notice of disagreement, Form 9, certified put to the board but not activated, or a remand. So for example, if you're issued an SOC, you have to submit the 9 in order to be eligible for RAMP. So it's important to remember that it's restricted to having filed being one of those stages. And this is what the RAMP election form looks like. And this is available on the VA website. So if you go to the VA website and you click on benefits, you will be able to see this RAMP opt-in election form. Also, there are RAMP materials such as a RAMP video, a RAMP fact sheet, infographics, poster, and brochure. So I encourage everyone, when you have the chance, to just visit the VA website in the benefits section, and you'll be able to review all of this, all the RAMP materials, and maybe think about some of what's being shared today, and take a look at it and see if some of that doesn't help in terms of conversations that you might be having with stakeholder groups or veterans. So the RAMP lanes, again, are the supplemental claim lane and the higher level review lane. And I think I just kind of went over that a little bit. And some of this is a little bit in the weeds. Like, we have a specific end product that tracks the supplemental claim lane, the 683 and the 682 for the higher level review. So the data as of today, we have, this is as of 8/31/18 actually, so very close to real-time data here. Over 300,000 total notices were mailed, and the RAMP opt-in election rate is close to 14%. And what you'll see in the bottom is the election rate by mailing cohort, the months, and it's gone from 9.6% in November up to close to 18% in May. You'll see the more recent months are a little bit lower, and that is, there's actually a lag time effect, so you'd see those months increase as you get further away from those months, probably to where we were in May. And some of the increase that you're seeing in the election rates is also driven by the information that's being shared about RAMP, because there's definitely a lot of, there could be a lot of concern as far as withdrawing your appeal to participate in the RAMP program. So it's important that we arm our stakeholders with as much information as possible to be able to accurately share that information and ensure that a veteran can make an informed decision about participating in RAMP. Remember, RAMP is voluntary. It's not obviously mandatory, but it really does represent a no-lose situation when you consider the timeliness and the fact that the framework of RAMP allows for multiple decision options. So some quick stats from RAMP so far. We have a total of over 55,000 legacy appeals have been withdrawn. Nearly $60 million in retroactive benefits have been awarded. And the average days to complete is less than 100 days. So that's, again, far better than the 3 to 7 years that we were highlighting in the legacy appeals program. The grant rate is close to 30%. And what you got to remember is even if the outcome is not favorable, a veteran can continue to elect different lanes. So you can go from one lane, supplemental lane, let's say, to the higher level review lane, and then continue to have the option to have a decision reviewed by the Board of Master's Appeals. So I wouldn't let that 30% grant rate necessarily be something that would create too much of a concern. But we are tracking that from both the higher level review and the supplemental lane. I see someone's raised their hand, so is there a question out there?
Did someone have a question for Fritz?
Fritz, it's Brian. I didn't raise my hand, but since we have a moment, I'll just ask a couple quick questions. First of all, well done on thinking of a new vision, your whole team, to make this work. The first question is that 17% opt-in rate, that doesn't seem like a very high opt-in rate. Do you know what's keeping that down? And then the second question is I don't really know how it works for appeals, but are most people appealing just getting a VA benefit for disability, or are most people appealing that they only got 10% and they want 30%? How historically does it work?
Yeah, two really good questions. So on the first question, the opt-in rate is really a function of the fact that you're going to run into some resistance to any type of change initiative that you're implementing. And it is a big deal to actually withdraw your appeal to participate in this RAMP program. So it's important that we have an honest dialogue with our veterans and our stakeholders about what it is you're giving up. And it's really not a lot, because you have that safety net there of having, and I'll get into actually have some FAQs coming up. It might be helpful if we go through those FAQs together as well, but you do have that option if you're not satisfied with the result of the RAMP decision to continue to appeal to BVA. And I don't have specific data on how many are service connection appeals versus claims for increased appeals. I would say you probably get a mix of both. I don't have I can get actual data, but I don't have that data at my disposal, Brian.
No, you're fine. Just curious. Thanks again.
I think it was Cindy that raised her hand. That's what I'm seeing. I keep seeing Cindy.
I'm unmuted now. So my question was, what you announced the claim grant rate for this new process, but under the legacy program, what was the grant rate on appeals?
The grant rate under the legacy program, I don't have that exact data. I would say that if you look at what goes to the board and what's ultimately upheld by the board, it's probably pretty similar to what we're seeing here. But I would say, Cindy, the important discussion point is the fact that you can receive a much more timely decision and continue to have those other options that are not available. So I don't have the exact data right now for the legacy appeals, but I'll try to get that to you guys later.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Thanks so much, Fritz. Do we have any other questions for the director?
Yeah, well, let me go through these FAQs really quickly since I have them here, and then we'll close up shop here and see if there's any other questions. So here's some frequently asked questions that we get about the RAMP program that you can definitely take a look at here. So the important point is that we do get questions about how to opt in, what the expected resolution time, the options that are available to include BVA review if you get a decision that you disagree with. So that's what these frequently asked questions attempt to address. So and Brian, Bob, these slides that I'm sharing today, I just want to make sure they'll be available to everyone if they want to look at the FAQs on their own.
Oh, even better. Thanks, Fritz.
So as I go through these, I'll just call out a few things. You can, if you have multiple appeals with multiple issues, do I have to choose the same lane for all of them? Yes, in RAMP, you must choose either a higher level review or a supplemental claim. Why can't I elect an appeals lane in RAMP? Well, RAMP is, again, it's kind of, I was telling you, it's an interim strategy until the new law goes into effect in February of 2019. So, therefore, it allows you to participate by having your appeal reviewed under the supplemental claim lane or the higher level review lane. Again, you can do both, but not at the same time. And ultimately, you can get your appeal reviewed by BVA. The board is actively working on implementation of a new appeals process that's beginning in October of 2018, so next month. And again, there's that question, what if I do disagree with my RAMP decision? If you remain dissatisfied with the decision you receive in RAMP, you have a year to use your other RAMP lane or appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. That's probably one of the more frequent questions I get from when I talk to veterans and other stakeholder groups is, what if I'm not satisfied with that RAMP decision? Because I'm concerned that they have that option to go to BVA, and that is there for them. So I want to end by talking about what's next, and very quickly, when we do implement the new law in February of 2019, there will be a decision review operations center that will be responsible for looking at all of the higher level reviews, and there will be 3 decision review operations centers, one in Washington, D.C., one in St. Petersburg, Florida, and one actually here in Seattle. So we're excited to be part of that change. And so essentially, in effective February 2019, if a veteran files a higher level review, that review decision will be done by either St. Petersburg or Seattle. The Washington, D.C. Decision Review Operations Center will essentially work the remands under the new process. So that's how we're moving forward with it's more of a centralized approach of these decision reviews effective February of 2019. So that's the latest on appeals modernization. I know I threw a lot at you, a lot of data, a lot of numbers, and I'll get back to you on a few of those questions that you asked where there was that data I didn't have the exact answers for. But other than that, are there any other questions?
Well, Fritz, this is excellent, and also that folks will have a chance to evaluate in their hour of leisure, if you will. But again, thanks so very much for being here today and giving us the latest and greatest and illuminating the future for us as well.
Thanks, Fritz.
All right, thanks. Take care.